What is going on, boys and girls? It is your boy, Klean, here to bring you guys another rant. Today, what I'm going to talk about is the flea market. The flea market, in my opinion, is one of the best and worst things to ever come to the game. Before I kind of get on a rant of the flea market, I'm going to talk about what the game was like before the flea market was in, because a lot of players never experienced this time of EFT, and honestly, it was pretty good, but also kind of bad at the same time. Before the flea market was introduced in the game, the majority of the player base had to level up the traders or kill players in raids that have leveled up the traders in order to get exclusive armor attachments, weapon builds, ammunition, and various other things that are just beneficial to the player. Even like containers was another big one. You kind of encouraged the player base to kind of focus and have this linear progression, and it kind of made the overall filtration of the gear that you'd commonly see in raids a little bit more predictable, but more controlled. Because, you know, you kind of see the progression of the global player base, like, okay, now players are starting to bring in like level 1 and 2 trader gear. Some players now have level 3, then 4. And then near the end of the wipe, it was just like, you know, the best gear in the game, level 5, 6 armor, really good ammo, meta HKs, you know, stuff that we've basically seen every single wipe. A new wipe had like a nice like curve to like in terms of like the amount of sweat and gear that you'd see in a raid. And then let's bring in the flea market and labs. Bring in a map that brought the most high value loot and PvE and PvP to the game. That alone filtered in so many items and gear into the player inventories, not even just on the flea market. And then you had the flea market on top of that, where essentially now we have this free-for-all free market. You get level 10 and the flea market is just open for everybody. You can buy whatever you want. You can sell whatever you can find. Now we have the find and raid tag, so you can't like buy something from the trader anymore and then sell it on the flea market. You have to go into a raid, find an item, then survive the raid, and then you can sell that item on the flea market, rewarding your survival for a successful raid. The flea market, in my opinion, has a really 50-50 effect on EFT. Like on one side of things, it really benefits a large majority of the player base, but on the other side of things, it really hinders the game's progression and is frankly exploitive in a lot of ways, because the time structure in terms of how wipe happens, the value of items will fluctuate, and experienced players will know how to find these items that players will buy, and they could make hundreds of million rubles just within a week. You know, ask my buddy fucking Willers that. He's insane. Like, he's fucking a god at the game, probably one of the best players there is. And that motherfucker knows how to make money. He's always been the guy who did that. You know what I mean? He basically started that whole trend. And so a wipe happens, brand new character. A week later, you can have 100 million rubles. That alone is a very flawed system, because a player that has 100 million rubles within a week is going to have a massive advantage over the entire player base for the entire wipe, essentially, because they've already reached essentially end game and they can acquire whatever they want, because the flea market essentially is a massive pool where people can buy pretty much whatever they want. There's almost everything on the in the game on the flea market that you'd expect, besides like maybe certain items that just don't spawn in raid and are only on the traders. So you have the side of things where it allows players who don't have all the time and energy to level up the traders and be able to buy ammo, armor, stuff like that, you know, pre-flea market, you know, that's what you had to do. But it allows for players to be able to do that without having to put all the time in the quests and stuff like that, because to be honest, a lot of the quests can be pretty hard and it takes a lot of time, and it's nice to just be able to go buy some good ammo from the flea market without having to, you know, be level 40 and, you know, have done every quest proper. But at the same time, since the market's very free and there's no progression with the flea market, it's just a free-for-all. So like the way players can make money is just so uncontrolled, and there's no progression ties to the ability of the player to make money. And what I think would be really great, because there's been a lot of discussion lately about removing the flea market from the game, and I personally think that's a bad idea. I understand that the game in a way had a better curve of progression before the flea market was in, but the flea market does good things, but it also does equally as bad. And the only reason I feel it does equal bad is mainly just because it's a free-for-all and there's no progression tied to anything. I really feel the flea market would be much more engaging and better if there was actual progression similar to that of a trader. But instead of missions, your progression on the flea market as a vendor, as somebody who sells things, is based off your reputation from the actual traders in the game, aka doing the quests and the missions. So I think it would be really neat if, as you level your character, as you level the traders, as you increase your reputation with them, so increases your own personal reputation as a vendor within the region of Tarkov. However, if you say have like level 1 traders, no missions done for them, you could basically only sell and buy maybe tier 1 and tier 2 items. And let's say there's 6 tier items in the game. from 1 to 6, 1 being like your common and 6 being your epic, right? Your orange, and then your white at 1, right? And so if you're level 1, you could only buy and sell common items on the flea market, and you would have to slowly not only sell items on the flea market to build your own reputation a bit, but also level the traders and do the missions and level their reputation to increase your own reputation as a, you know, reputable vendor, right? And so essentially, as you start to level the traders, you then level your ability to buy and sell more lucrative items on the flea market. So if you're right new in the game, you hit level 10, you unlock the flea market, you're not going to be able to buy the best ammo in the game. You're not going to be able to sell slicks. You're not going to be able to buy very high value barter items, keys, and stuff like that. You'd have to focus on the traders and then level your reputation with them, as well as leveling your reputation on the flea market at the same time, allowing you to buy and sell, you know, like I said, more lucrative items. And I just feel anything that would allow for more progression to happen with the flea market is what could solve this kind of issue of it being such a free-for-all. It doesn't have to be exactly what I just said. I mean, I would love to hear you guys brainstorm any ideas instead of, you know, anything just like remove the flea market. I think any form of progression to the flea market would benefit the game massively and also keep the flea market fun and engaging. I know a lot of players might think, well, hey, well, Klean, this is now just going to hurt casual players even more because, you know, now we can't, you know, buy good ammo when we need it, and certain armor and equipment from the flea market when, you know, I have to level up my traders to do that. I understand, but in my opinion, that's what you should have to do. If you want to get the better armor and ammo, you should have to put in the work and do the quests and the missions. But at the same time, you can still go into a raid and kill a player with that stuff and then escape the raid and have that gear. You know, again, that rewards PvP and encourages players to do so. At the end of the day, I mean, because this is kind of a scuff rant, I'm honestly just saying all of this out of pocket for the most part. The flea market's good, but it's also bad, and it really just needs more progression. There needs to be something that hinders the players from selling and buying certain items on the flea market right away, and just adding more control to what the flea market is. I mean, like, for a good example, like, AS Vals are 300k at level 4 Prapper. You got to get level 38, and you have to do a bunch of missions for them in order to unlock that. 300,000 rubles for a Val. Then you go to the flea market, and it's 80,000 rubles. That doesn't make any sense. Why would I go through all this time to be able to buy the Val from a trader when now I can just go to the flea market and get it for like 2/3 the price? It's ridiculous. Or 1/3 of the price, excuse me. And a lot of that also has to do with the loot pools as well. Like, EFT is still a massive mess when it comes to items available at traders, items available via loot pools, and how that's all redistributed throughout the game. I had a prior video where I kind of talked about rewarding PvP, and you guys should definitely watch that if you haven't seen that one yet, because a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about in this video about the flea market kind of piggybacks off that a bit, and honestly helps control like a lot of the diversity of things that we see in a raid. So anyway, I think the flea market's good, but also bad at the same time. I don't think it should be removed, but I think there needs to be some form of progression, some kind of gameplay loop that gives us progress and has goals for us to reach as players. Because in a game like EFT, that's always fun. Leveling your traders up, you know, eventually getting Kappa, and, you know, leveling up your economic value of your stash, allowing you to buy more, you know, armor and loadouts and stuff like that. You know, more progression is always a good thing in EFT, because EFT is a game where, you know, the progression is kind of sped through at this point. You know, most people just rush for Kappa and just like beam through it because, you know, we've done it so many times already. You know, we just don't want to do it again. You know what I mean? It gets redundant. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you guys have any rant topics you'd like to see me talk about, be sure to post in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to social media and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, peace out, take care. Thanks for watching the rant, guys, and I will talk to you later. Peace out.